Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Raw is Ginger.
Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of Raw is Ginger. And as you can see, we're not on Zoom, which is a weird experience for us. But guys, we're here.
Yes, we are here in Casa de Bobag. Well, you know what it feels like? It feels like, remember when like all the restrictions started lifting in COVID? And everyone was just starting to meet up again. It's like, I don't know about this.
This doesn't feel right.
I felt more like I was walking into an AA meeting.
In fairness, because I go to support groups, I can totally understand that. Especially when I was like, "You want a coffee? Do you want a biscuit?"
I didn't hear you offering biscuits.
Because I don't have any. What? I'm poor now. I can only shop every fortnight, and one of those weeks I'm starving. That's about it.
So don't make it sound to everybody like you were offering mint Vikings.
I wasn't it. I said a biscuit. You don't know what type of biscuit it was. Could have been a fake.
Well, actually, a minute ago you said you've got none, so now it's irrelevant to what type of biscuit it was because they were all imaginary.
It would have been a Lidl's version of caramel wafers, just so you know. Or is it Aldi's? No, it's Aldi's, because Lidl actually sell the Turnix ones, don't they?
Aye, they do.
There we go. Someone else in poverty understands.
Yep.
Anyway, enough about the fact that we're basically living in extreme deprivation and Toner isn't, because he doesn't know about caramel wafers from Aldi. Let's get on to what we're actually here.
Aldi?
I mean, we've got an M&S and weight loss shopper here. Come on.
This is not just any wafer. Right, so yeah, let's get on to talk about what we're talking about.
Well, on the back of me and Tone are talking about our Mount Rushmores, and it got us talking about tag team ones. So we thought we'd do this one a wee bit different. I'll say my Mount Rushmore of tag teams, and we'll just discuss whether you agree or don't, and what you like about those tag teams.
Sounds good. So, who would you say would be the first tag team on your Mount Rushmore? And just to clarify, is it 4 or 5 that are actually on? Four. Just because, I'm not familiar with Mount Rushmore. Well, I look at it and then they always try and add things in and gifts and stuff. So
well, that's just Donald Trump doing that.
Aye, but it makes me question my reality. That's his fake news thing. So, who's your first one?
My first one has to be the Dudley Boys, because for when they went in to ECW, they revolutionised tag team wrestling. And they made from the stable and then this and that, but as just Bubba Ray and Devon, that's when they were at their best. There was nobody else that could even come close to what they were doing.
And I think the impressive thing with them is the vast places that they've done it across. It's not like where you see a lot of, whether it be singles wrestlers, tag teams, whatever, that have been in one place and have maybe built up a good name. They've been all over doing this, and they've consistently been high performing, successful, and it's always been entertaining. Even with the mics, they're very entertaining, which for tag teams I think has been difficult.
Especially when Bubba Ray wasn't that good on the mic when he started, and he said that. And it was Devon that was always with the mic, because he was fantastic with a mic. It wasn't until later on that Bubba Ray started to go, I want to do that. Because when they brought him in to WWE, they gave him the stutter, and it's like there's no point. This is an established tag team that people know that they come in and they devastate everybody. You don't need to give him a stutter. And then that got dropped, and then he started taking the mic as well, and it's like, he's great on the mic. And then they went to TNA, dominated there. Devon sort of went away for a bit, and they pushed Bully Ray as a singles competitor. He won the championship there. And before even that, they went to Japan, dominated there. And it's just anywhere they go, people are like, we need to put the titles on these guys. Because then people go, they're the champions, we need to be as good as them.
And anybody at 3Ds, Mae Young, definitely gets my vote for being on there.
And power bombs are off the stage.
That was incredible. And it was so good. And I remember when he spoke about it and he went, I really didn't want to do it. And she's basically saying,
let's go.
I'm up for it, let's do it, let's go.
You know, when I heard that story, you know what it reminded me of? You ever seen that, was it Old School?
Mm-hmm.
And you know, you've got Blue, and he's going to get doing the wrestling with the woman, and he's like, you sure you want to do this, Blue? He goes, just ring the bell, you fucking pussy. That's basically what Mae Young essentially said to him. It was like, just just go, you fucking pussy, bang, and that was it.
I know.
But when he'd done it, he was so terrified. He was like trying to check, like to get her to squeeze his hand or whatever to make sure she was still alive. And she'd done it. He was like, "Oh, thank Christ!" He's like, you could just see I've done this, but have I killed this pensioner?
It's the fact that she'd been in the industry for like 40 years by then. So she's like, do whatever you want. I'm making yous look like the worst arseholes in the world. People are going to hate yous for doing this. And yous are going to be so over. And they done it, and that was it. So it's like, that's why they are up there.
Right, so I think that's a good shout.
I would definitely agree with having the Dudleys. I think it's very difficult to disagree with putting the Dudleys in.
Right, so who would you say for your second tag team then?
My second tag team sort of comes hand in hand, really, with the Dudleys, and it's the Hardy Boys. Because of everything that they've done throughout their careers, they've sort of done the same on a bit of a smaller scale, because when they started, they were in like WWF, WWE, and then they done a stint in Japan, they done TNA, and then when they come back, that's when people are, why aren't they in the Hall of Fame? Like when they come back at a WrestleMania, it was like, people are, oh, it's going to be the New Day, and then the Hardys came out, and it's like, oh my god, the Hardys are back. It's like, why aren't they in the Hall of Fame? Because people weren't really talking about them because they'd went to another company and they're doing this and that, and it's like, nah. And then Matt Hardy comes back with his woken persona when he come back, and it's like, they're sort of done what the Dudleys have done on a smaller scale, but because of what they done with the Dudleys and with Edge and Christian as well, it's hard to not have them, especially with their accomplishments in the wrestling as a tag team, because they do their best work when they're together. When they're not together, it's like, it's up and down, it's up and down. Even Jeff Hardy's world title run wasn't his best work. His best work has been with working in the tag team division with his brother and the Dudleys and Edge and Christian.
Just to clarify though, which world title run are we talking about? Are we talking about his TNA one? Are we talking about his WWE
His
one?
WWE one, because his TNA one gets sort of sullied because of all the shit that he done.
Yeah, Victory Road.
Yeah, which we spoke about.
We have spoke about that. Yeah, feel free to check that out, guys. What do you think, Toner? What Hardy's year and
For me, and I get it, and I think, and let's be honest, the reason that they came up, I think, in this conversation with a lot of people is because of TLC.
Yeah.
Which, I think if you take the TLC matches away, I'm not saying they've not been a great tag team. I think it's difficult to hold them to the same calibre, or close to the same calibre as a tag team like the Dudleys.
Yes.
But I think the TLC kind of pushes it more towards they have to be, because I mean that, and I remember watching it and being like, wow, you know, everything about the match was absolutely incredible. And I mean, people forget the winners of the match and everything else because it became irrelevant as to who actually won the match, because the overall match had that many spots in it, had that much chemistry between them all in it. So, you know, I've got to agree and say, yes, I would put them there, and I think the sole purpose of it being is TLC, because I think you take the TLC element away, and I don't think they would, I'm not saying they weren't a great tag team, but in comparison to others, but they completely changed the game. All three of the teams did when the TLC match was on.
I was debating whether to have Edge and Christian on or the Hardys, because I knew I had to have one of them on, and the reason I went with the Hardys is because they done more tag team stuff out with WWE. They went to Japan, they done independent shows, and they done their TNA stuff together.
And I think they were
Whereas with Edge,
involved in like some bigger spots as well.
aye, and like with Edge and Christian, their tag team thing is just WWE. Edge's whole career until recently has been WWE, whereas Christian, he's done TNA, he's done AEW, he's done independence, he went to Japan for a year and a half. And because Edge was wanting to go to Japan, and then he's like, I can't, my neck's not good enough, it's bad enough working here and having to do that, but going to Japan where it's a lot more brutal. So Christian went and done that, and they done all that. So that's why I've not put Edge and Christian on, and it's the hardest.
And I think arguably as well you could probably go away, and I think the right choice, because I think you could possibly argue Edge and Christian's singles careers across the board have been more successful than their tag careers.
I mean, their tag career in the WWE was fantastic. All the comedy stuff they done with Kurt Angle, that was magnificently done, because Kurt Angle's the brunt of the joke. He knows it's coming, and he's like, I'll be the brunt of the joke.
Even having, like, when they had their brief kind of alliance with Rhino as well, that was a really underrated kind of trio that they had.
Yeah.
But if it's a case of that, we're, like, you know, what for touring, you're saying that I can kind of understand it, but not too sure. Who would you potentially put in place of the Hardys?
Well, I think it would depend on who Kev's other choices are going to be. You know, because tag teams that I say may come up. So I think for this, what I'll do is I'll keep Stoom until we get to the end of it. And then if I was to potentially replace, I would fire in it, because as I say, I don't know who his next choices are going to be. I could maybe, I knew the Dudleys were going to be there. I expected either the Hardys or Edge or Christian. I was actually happier that he went with the Hardys as opposed to Edge and Christian. So we'll see where the next choice leads us.
Right, well, Kev, choice number 3 then?
Choice number 3 is the Steiner brothers. If you watch all their early stuff, 2 big guys, but when you watch Scott Steiner in the ring, when he's got Rick with him as a tag team partner, it's fantastic. As a solo guy, he wasn't as good, but when he was in the ring and he knew his brother was there, the stuff that they were doing was fantastic. Watch their early matches for like the mid-80s to like the early 90s when they were in the WWF, doing all that stuff. It's fantastic. Especially the teams they were going up against. They're going up like Legion of Doom, the Rockers, Demolition. And these were like big names. And they were just powering through them. They powered through Legion of Doom. I think they were both like completely pissed at that time, so it wouldn't have been hard. But they made that match look fantastic, even though the people that they were going against weren't in a fit state to fight. They lost the match, made Legion of Doom look amazing, but you could see that they were pissed. And the Steiners came out and made that match fantastic.
Toner?
Do you know what, I get it. You probably knew this yourself when you were putting it in. Probably a bit more left field than a lot of other options.
Yeah.
But I get it, because, and I agree, when you go back to as singles competitors,
Rick was a lot better as a singles competitor.
Better, yes, but I think their singles, especially, forgettable. Yeah. Very forgettable. The size he'll put him into some of the situations and main events that he got to. Would they have been in mines? Probably not. But I get it. I get the choice, because the other thing is, because of the size of them, very difficult to look for. We can talk about many big guys within the wrestling, but muscular guys that are actually not big but well built, like kind of tanks that can move.
Still do like backflips off the top rope and stuff like
that. And I get it. Would it have been in mines? Probably not. But I get it, because when you look at the era and what they kind of done as well, because nobody that size was really doing anything that they had done. And together, I was always a fan of them together, was far better than them as singles.
Yeah.
I get it. I would say it's probably the first one that I'll slightly disagree with, but not massively disagree with, because I get it.
So we'll say that there's potentially 2 that you might want to replace, depending on what Kev says for his final one. So Kev, the final one on your Mount Rushmore?
Well, I actually mentioned them, and a lot of people are going to think that I would say the Road Warriors, Legion of Doom, but I'm going to go with Demolition. I always preferred Demolition, except when they added Crush. I didn't like that.
Why did you prefer Demolition?
They were just brutal. You watch their matches, you watch what they were doing and saying. The people that they had the matches with, one of the greatest rivalries with Legion of Doom, especially they'd cleaned up at the time, so it was like clean matches. And it's like, these are fucking brilliant. And if you take what the Dudley Boys and Edge and Christian and Hardy's done, they looked at these matches because they were fans at the same time as we were watching these ones. And it's like, I want to be doing that. So they'd done this, but they took it to a new level for this era. And the matches that Demolition were having all throughout the world, they weren't contracted to WWE. They could go wherever they wanted. It was a written contract that they had with Vince McMahon Senior, that if they needed somebody to come in to help enhancement talent, they would come in. And that was written in for 10 years. So when Vince Junior took over, he couldn't tear that up because that's what was written in. So they could go to the NWA, have a run with the titles, drop them, go to WCW, go to Japan, 6 months there, do 6 months in Japan while being the WWF champions. And it's like, why would they have that written into a contract if they weren't as good as they were? And it's just all of that. When I was looking it up, I was like, Jesus Christ, I did not know that.
Donna?
Got to say, I was kind of glad with that because I preferred them to Legion of Doom as well. I thought there was far more kind of brutality in their matches, which at that time was really what you wanted. You know, you wanted to see a bit of brutality. A choice I actually can't argue with. I didn't know it was 10 years. I'd heard, kind of read stuff about their kind of contract and they could jump about. I didn't know how long it had lasted or how long it went for. But when you look at their history, nobody's able to kind of jump about and kind of do what they done without being talented. And I think as well, but it's maybe a kind of element of the times, because could you imagine a tag team or a singles competitor doing that now? Do you know what I mean? They would get absolutely hammered for jumping about pillar to post and everything else, but they could do it and do it pretty well. Yeah. They could always just kind of slot in. Again, maybe not one I expected you to say, but one that I don't think I can argue.
So it's one you're like, didn't expect it, but I respect it.
Yes.
Okay, so potentially then it's two for the replacements. So what ones would you add in then?
So if I was to take out the Hardys, which I would be honest and say I would be very up and down as to whether I would or not, but if I was to have replaced them, and the reason this team I would say would potentially, for me it would have been between the Hardys and this other team, and the other team being the New Age Outlaws. And I think it's because of the generation and what they kind of brought to the table. You know, I've not met a wrestling fan from that era that can word for word do the intro.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that they're a better choice than the Hardys. I mean that it would have been very fine lined too, because even their in-ring work as well was very good. You know, they could have, they weren't particularly massive high flyers, but they worked very well in the ring and were very consistent, which I think at tag team levels now, because you mentioned things like Legion of Doom, and we spoke about the Hardys, and when you think of their troubles, and I'm not saying that New Age Outlaws went without their troubles, but I think they were a lot more consistent in the ring for what they'd offered. So that would have been one that I think I would have been kind of tempted to kind of look at and go away. Maybe this is just me. You know, when you look at other teams like, say, Two-Man Power Trip, for as great as it was, would never get onto a Mount Rushmore because it never lasted for long enough. I personally think that's the exact same way Brothers of Destruction. I don't think it went for long enough. As dominant as they could have been, and for as many years as they could have been dominant, the ideal scenario was to put them head to head.
Yeah.
And that was always where it kind of worked. So I think as a tag team, they both kind of, as great as they were for the short period of time, kind of fall at the wayside. I annoyingly was a massive fan, and I'm really annoyed to say this, of the Headbangers.
Oh, love the Headbangers.
Did they do enough for me to say they should be on a Mount Rushmore? No.
No.
Right, of course they didn't. But I absolutely loved everything. I think it's a kind of honourable mention. I think for the Headbangers, you know, Mosh and Thrasher, I mean, they just didn't care.
Aye.
You know, the stuff that they got up to in the ring was absolutely outstanding. The most annoying one for me, Rock and Sock Connection. It was so entertaining for the length of time they'd done it. But I was a very big fan of Midnight Express.
Yeah.
I really liked that, what they kind of done, and what they kind of, but again, you look at it's the length of time some of these teams go together for.
Yeah.
It doesn't last for long, whereas when you look at what's been put there, I would say if it was me, I would potentially have took out Steiners and put in New Age Outlaws. Maybe would have been that. It would be difficult to take out the Hardys because of TLC.
I know.
TLC's not there, and I think they're an honourable mention.
I can understand that, aye. I mean, I had to have the Dudleys on because everything that they've done is just...
Yeah, 100%.
Aye. But then it's like, I had to have at least one of the other teams for TLC because of everything that they've done in TLC that revolutionised and brought people back to watching and, you know, wanting more tag team stuff. And that's why I had looked into it. I thought, well, the Hardys had more longevity as a team, whereas Edge and Christian parted ways and done their own thing. So that's why I put the Hardys in. And with the Steiners again, they were doing things in like the 80s that nobody was doing.
Yeah.
Same with Demolition. So that's why I've got those teams. I mean, there's so many honourable mentions. The Bushwhackers,
Yes.
they were completely trash. But you heard that music, and that you're jumping up and doing the same.
Yeah.
You're hoping to be at the front row going, I like my...
And
Something that you wouldn't get away with nowadays.
It's now when you look at it, you know, because when we're talking about these tag teams, and yes, okay, I understand when probably more so the Hardys kind of wrestled together and stuff, but when you look at it, you have to go quite, because now in 2023, we have to go quite a bit of the way back, because in the last, you know, like 20 odd years, it does start to become very difficult, because I think the tag team division massively, I think the kind of era with Hardys, Dudleys, Edge and Christian, now New Age Outlaws, things like that, was for us maybe a kind of golden era of tag teams, because after that it rapidly went downhill.
Yeah.
So you have to go back to then, which doesn't seem like long ago, but actually when you look at it,
It was a long time.
Yes.
I mean, it wasn't until like the New Day and the Usos that people started going, oh wait, this is good. And then all of them have separated as well because like injuries and the stories with the bloodline and stuff like that. So it's like, what tag teams have we got nowadays?
And
so it's like we're in the drop again.
yeah, and that's the thing, it becomes really difficult, whereas back then I felt like tag teams were as big a part of everything as the stables and the individuals, and so that there's so much more choice. But now, as you say, Usos, maybe in 15, 20 years we sit there and we talk about them being there. I think some of the stuff they've done has been absolutely incredible. Again, though, we speak about longevity as tag teams and doing it consistently, so they've still got that to go. I've no doubt that at some point beyond this storyline, they team back up and they probably hold multiple championships moving forward again. But no, I would say, you know, when you look at the kind of overall choice, it'd be difficult to fully disagree. A couple that could have maybe swung either way, but I think difficult to disagree overall.
I think between both of your Mount Rushmores, even the ones that you were going to take out to put in, I think they're still solid choices.
Yeah.
You've got good choices for good reasons that you've done. So I think they're pretty good. Well, in all honesty.
And there's a lot of teams out there that haven't won the titles, but you still put them in consideration because it's like what they'd done at that time. Like the natural disasters were fantastic because again they were brutal. They came in and just sat on you. What can you do? I mean, you get Earthquake coming to sit on you, so I'm fucked. I mean, Earthquake's one of the guys that brutalised Hulk Hogan, so respect to him.
Can anyone believe that we've not mentioned Too Cool?
I was actually just going to mention
There's reasons why I'm just letting you guys just kind of go along with this because I was just like, I like Too Cool. And I didn't want to get slaughtered concerning who you were talking about as well, but I loved Too Cool for just the type of act that they were that they started out as.
Yeah, they tried to be too serious when they were too much.
Yeah, but too
They
much
were
with the
trying to be
whole
serious.
that like the Al Snow and head thing, that stuff.
That's when they started to be.
That's when they started kind of finding where they're wanting to go.
Because with the whole head and shoulders on head and then pinning head, it's like this team's got something. And then they became Too Cool, and then they added Rikishi, and it's like that's when they started to really run with it.
I personally think that's why you wouldn't include them in a tag team. That's because we're more synonymous with them when Rikishi joined because it was the big guys dancing.
Oh, I think entertainment wise, I would got to say if I was to sit and bring up, 10 entertaining tag teams, I would definitely say they'd be in my top 10 list, probably every time.
As you say, 100%.
But, yeah, I mean, for in-ring work and everything else, they were good for what they were. When they had that period of time of finding their niche, I thought it was really good, but then for everything else, it fell away probably quicker than what you thought it was going to. And then you had the kind of nostalgia of it, rumbles and stuff, where they'd come back and it would happen, and it was great to look back on. But no, do you know what? I think entertainment-wise, I did. You know how when the lights went down and that music hit, you knew exactly what was going to happen.
Oh yeah, and that was what they were mainly wanted. It was a tag team or essentially a stable where they didn't want them necessarily to wrestle.
Aye.
They wanted the dance.
They were
the total.
They were the novelty act.
Yeah, they
that
were
you
the
bring
total
out in the middle of the
reverse.
show when things are starting to die down a bit.
Yep.
You
Aye.
bring them
It
out,
lifts.
lifts
Yeah.
the spirits,
I mean-
and then you bring out the main card.
I mean, who can forget that Royal Rumble? Rikishi's in there. It's like, oh my god, I am going to die. Then the third one runs in, get the hat. They have a dance in the middle of the Royal Rumble, and just as the buzzer's about to go,
Chucks them out.
chucks them both out, and it's like, I'm sorry, and carries on dancing until the next person gets there. I thought that was genius. And it would never work with any other stable. But then again, we're getting stables rather than tag teams. That could be another one that we discuss. So overall, I would say there's some great tag teams that have got it down.
Yep.
Any other honourable mentions from you guys before we wrap up?
Kai and Tai.
Yes.
Or as they say, indeed.
We just got cancelled. Yeah, if I don't get cancelled before now, what are we going to do?
Exactly.
Well, guys, thank you both so much for this one. Well, until next episode, which will probably be in a couple of weeks, but for us will be in a couple of minutes.
Yep.
Good night.
Cheers.
Yep.